This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com, and I was just watching this hilarious interview of Mike Tyson and The Undertaker, where the most notable thing of it is where Tyson says, quote, Tony Khan and those guys, yeah, these guys want to put me on the show and stuff before, but I don't care if they got more money. If Vince McMahon put me on the show, I'd rather go there, even though AEW pays more, end quote. And then Undertaker says, quote, I don't blame you there. It's going to get much more play. WWE is going to do it right. Yeah, end quote. So Mike Tyson admittedly is screwed up on mushrooms in this interview. And they seem to kick in more as the interview goes. And he's also smoking weed. It's called hot boxing with Mike Tyson. So he gets more and more fucked up as the show goes. But we all remember Mike Tyson was on tape on the first time he was in AEW yawning. So I guess that was legitimate. And then if you remember, he did that stupid confrontation with Jericho where they tried to recreate the Austin thing, but then they all took pictures in the back after, and then they all took pictures in the ring after. So whereas the Austin thing was kayfabed, the Jericho thing wasn't kayfabed at all, and I don't even know if anything came of it. It was just stupid. And then recently, they brought him in to commentate an Orange Cassidy versus some Japanese guy match that didn't even get a good rating. You're gonna bring Mike Tyson in to get more eyes on the product and have him commentate a match that people aren't even going to understand because nobody but smart marks would like a match like that. I don't know. I understand Mike Tyson. It was very funny interview. It started off similar to all of Undertaker's other interviews, where he was just talking about how he started in basketball and breaking in with the Von Erichs. Mike Tyson shows his knowledge of wrestling at the start of this, remembering Kerry Von Erich and remembering Bruiser Brody, who Undertaker's told this story a million times, pretty much on every podcast he does about wrestling Bruiser Brody. He left out the Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer interview, which was good. He talked about bulking up a lot for basketball. The same story that he's told a lot about waiting in the world-class office for months before Fritz Von Erich gave him a chance. He said Fritz Von Erich thought he looked like David Von Erich, who had just passed away when he gave him the match versus Brody. And he talks about Brody roughing him up in the ring. Mike Tyson talks about the original Sheik in this, about being a big fan of the original Sheik, and I guess The Undertaker was a fan of him too. By the way, I will be interviewing one of the original Sheik's managers, Supermouth Dave Drayson, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. on this channel live. Mike Tyson brings up Andre a lot of times in this interview. It's pretty funny how much Andre gets brought up, and Undertaker talks about the story where Andre allegedly got into it with Blackjack Mulligan, and talks about Andre being a dick on planes. It's funny because a lot of people like to paint the narrative that the Warrior wasn't over, but Mike Tyson brings up the Warrior and was clearly a Warrior fan in this. He even says everyone loved the Warrior. And Mike Tyson says it looked like the Warrior was on drugs as well as steroids. Undertaker told the story that the Warrior wanted to have lots of tax write-offs, so he had his name airbrushed all over his gear, not only his gear, but his street clothes. So he got recognized a lot more. But Undertaker brings up they were working 25 days in a row sometimes in those days. and they were tired all the time, and you never were necessarily in the mood to meet fans, and he would try and blend in as much as possible. But he said it was funny because the Warrior, since he had his name on all of his gear, he's like a walking billboard for himself. And he says on one early morning flight, he saw him snap at a 5-year-old kid for asking for his autograph. But Undertaker also explains that he could understand you're on the road and you're burnt out and you're exhausted and you got to get on a morning flight. It's not like these days, for instance, when they don't even have any house shows this week and it's pay-per-view week. The schedule these days is really easy. The wrestlers these days are spoiled. Undertaker said in his opinion, the Warrior was very high-strung and Warrior got along well behind the scenes with Kerry Von Erich and himself because they made a lot of money together. He said they would often headline one town together while Hogan was headlining another back when they were doing 2 shows a night. Mike Tyson brings up that he was a superstar Billy Graham fan, puts over Billy Graham, which I'm sure Billy would like to know. They watch the Foley match. They don't show the match, obviously, because they don't own it, but they show them watching it. And yeah, as it goes on, Mike Tyson is more and more funny because he seems pretty fucked up in it. And then his co-host, who I think is a football player, possibly. I don't really follow football, even though I'm wearing an NFL hat. But I'm only wearing it to represent Dallas because I like Dallas. But yeah, Tyson goes on to say that Muhammad Ali copied Gorgeous George. Oh, why I was bringing up the co-host because this is the more fucked up Tyson gets, the more the co-host talks. And a lot of it is the co-host saying how much he wants to go in WWE and hit someone with a chair. And that, I'll be honest, I only watched an hour and 10 minutes of it. And it's an hour and 30 minutes. I got bored the more the co-host talked. That I tapped out. But Mike Tyson also says boxers get paid more money, but UFC is more entertaining and puts on a better show, in his opinion. He talks about how Conor McGregor has a good personality. He had a good personality for boxing. It was a gimmick, but real. And he was kind of alluding that there isn't really a good gimmick in boxing. Undertaker brings up in the early years of WWE, there wasn't doctors or trainers. But yeah, that's it was fairly entertaining. Some of it repetitive because the Undertaker, it seems like only about a year that he started doing podcasts, but it's a lot of the same stories. What made this more enjoyable was Tyson getting fucked up. Like there's one point where he's trying to say that he had a wrestling match where he was doing hip tosses and stuff, and they can't find it. And Undertaker doesn't even recall Tyson ever having an actual wrestling match. And then for a second, they think they find it with some AEW footage. And he's like, nah, don't show that. It's not that. As if he's like ashamed that he was ever part of AEW. Mike Piper's doing great. She'll be back with me on Sunday. Harris, wrestling is nothing anymore, okay? It's predictable. For instance, we know Sami Zayn's not going to win the title tomorrow night. And I guess tonight on SmackDown, Bray Wyatt said he's going to fight the winner of Lashley versus Lesnar. Well, that pretty much tells the story. Lesnar's going to win that match. Kurt, yeah, WWE's asking $9 billion to be sold. I talked about it in my Wrestling Observer review earlier today. Cameron, yes, Mike Tyson's most memorable moments were in WWE. I can't even really. The most memorable thing that's happened in AEW was their first pay-per-view, I guess. And then when CM Punk came and they sold out the United Center, but then when they came back to Chicago, they didn't even sell out the smaller building with Punk. So it didn't last. I think all of his fans from around the world flew into that first one. But there hasn't been many like memorable moments in AEW. I know they have fans though, and there's a lot of AEW fans on this channel, so I don't mean to insult you. Tom, I actually had a really good workout today. Really good workout, and I was actually just talking with one of my old kickboxing trainers about maybe starting to do some kickboxing training again soon. Tom, of course, Zayn got a huge pop tonight. They're in Montreal. What would you expect? Mohammed CM Punk is sitting at home making $3 million a year. AEW doesn't want to bring him back, but they don't want to release him. Oui, je parle français et j'aime beaucoup les filles françaises. Checking out. Au revoir, mes amis.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of